people out there this morning. We're already getting a lot of your comments. Grandparents we're talking about, and the relationships that often break down when their son or daughter's relationship breaks down and they end up not seeing their grandchildren.
Okay, so grandparents, where they stand in all of this, they're often the forgotten victims in all of this. To highlight this, Susan Stamper, Gloria Huntingford, a family law expert, Marilyn Stowe here this morning. Susan, we've got to hear your story first of all, and how this affects you. 14 years. How old is your grandchild? Is it 14 years, or is she?
She's older than 14.
Oh, how old is she?
She's 17.
She's 17. Okay, so you've had no contact for 14 years. Okay. Well, why? Tell me the story.
My son and his partner's relation broke up, and she decided to take my granddaughter away, and we weren't allowed to know where she was. And it's been like that ever since.
And you haven't seen her from that day that they left? How close were you to Emily before they left?
Well, very close. I've been there when she was born and saw her for 3.5 years regularly, and to suddenly have her taken away was just devastating.
Have you had any contact with your daughter-in-law and asked her why, or pleaded with her to be able to see Emily?
No.
Just try and quantify the hurt with all of that, the hurt that goes with that, and the pain that goes with that.
It's just devastating. It changes your life. You become a different person, and you just can't see an end to it.
Can you see one day, at one stage, presumably, Emily will have the right to see your decision, but are you worried that her mind may be poisoned against you, or do you think you ever will see her or get that opportunity to reunite?
I have to think that I'm going to see her again, and my hope is that perhaps one day she'll want to know who we are and come and find us, and she'll know what nice people we are and what she's been missing.
Could I ask you, is this almost like a bereavement to you?
A bereavement has an ending. This is like a living nightmare. It hasn't got an ending. You can't put a sticky plaster on and mend it. It's there going on forever. It will not heal.
So you can see, Gloria, how painful this is for Susan, and it's been going on for so many years, and that pain is still there. How common a problem is this?
Well, I want to say that first of all, there are 14 million grandparents in this country. So that's a big audience you're talking to today, and people can identify with the subject. And a very important point to say about Susan, Susan's got 9 other grandchildren. But you know, it's a bit like losing a child when somebody says, isn't it great you've got other children? It doesn't matter how many grandchildren you go on to have. You can never replace that firstborn or any grandchild. So it's a big issue, and actually, I know between us, even now I've got 10 grandchildren, and I thought I was pretty well off in the law by being an interviewer. It's only when I went to a lobby at Downing Street on behalf of the Grandparents Federation that I realised that there are no rights for grandparents at all. And we're not talking here about the right to bring the children up. We're talking about the right just to see them.
Why
it is your flesh and blood.
Why is that, Mary? Why do grandparents have no rights at all?
It isn't only grandparents. Parents who leave their children also find out that there are no automatic rights to see a child. In fact, the legislation is very child-focused, it's very child-specific. What is in the best interest of the child? If it's in the interest of the child to see a parent or to see a grandparent or any other relation, then the court will make that order.
But then what about for someone like Susan, where her daughter-in-law has gone, they don't even know where she is that, you know, that she can't even apply for that because the woman has just taken the child off?
The advice currently is that if you wish to see your grandchild, you can make an application to the court for permission to make an application, and if the court grants you that permission, then you can make your application for contact.
Do you know what I think is so tragic in it all? You're talking about the emphasis on the child. You see, if you take Susan's case, so the marriage breaks up for whatever reason, wouldn't you think that when children are all at sea with a marriage breakup or the death of a parent, that's when the solidarity of grandparents can kick in. That's when you can be a source of reference. I'll give you one point actually.
Gloria, and sorry, before you come to that point, which my wife made to me last night as we were debating this, shall we say, over the dinner table last night, the grandparents will take the side of their child, and therefore maybe the argument...
Well, not necessarily.
Grandparents
but mostly probably. Do you think so?
They have to be a wise owl. They have to zip it. They have to stand back.
But they don't. I mean, if someone is saying, for instance, wrongly, your son beat up my daughter, whatever it is, the indignity would say, what? You know, Because a lot of people find that
You know, I
hard
was
to
saying,
accept. So it is more likely than not, surely the grandparent will take the side of their own child, which then gets...
Yeah, no, but you're talking about an aggravated situation, which of course there are, but there are lots of other instances where marriages, you know, if you can say marriage peacefully breaks up, but by consent they break up, or as I say, the death of a parent.
Yes,
There are many situations...
Why then wouldn't a grandparent be allowed to see a child
Well,
in
that's the
that
question.
situation?
There are a lot of, you know...
Some people might say, look, however emotionally difficult it is, it's not your child, you know, you're the grandparent.
But it is your flesh and blood.
But the court will make orders for contact with grandparents, and in extremis, in extreme situations, if there's no alternative, then make the application. But there are other ways. There's mediation, there's conciliation. There are sensible, negotiated ways forward for people in these
I wonder
terrible
how many
situations.
grandchildren, Susan, are out there today who are listening to this and say, like as in your story, I was kept away, I was deprived, I knew nothing about this, I didn't know my grandparents, and maybe, I mean, it must be a big fear to you that you will die without ever seeing your granddaughter again.
It's a thought, yes. It's one that I just don't accept. I'm just convinced that we will see her again. I have to. Can't give up.
Also, research shows that as children get older, they want to know who their family are. They want to know their roots. So we hope that in your case, Susan, when your granddaughter is 18, that maybe she would want to know her grandparents, and that's what you have to hang on to. So I think you have to be quite positive in this, and maybe the law is beginning to tweak slightly, isn't it? Yeah.
Because today the government have announced that they're looking at the rights of fathers. I think this child-centred focus might be widening out, and that can only help grandparents.
How's this affected your husband and his relationships?
With you?
Yeah.
Well, he feels the same as me. You know, we've just had to... He's convinced that our granddaughter will come and look for us one day. But it's the same, we just have to live with it.
We often talk to people, Susan, that say, you know, I always send a birthday card, I still send we keep
do
Christmas
that.
presents.
We do it every Christmas, Easter and birthday.
Is it true you've got a whole bundle of presents all waiting for your granddaughter?
Yes, people give us presents for her, so I started off with one little carrier bag, which has now come to 3 great big bags, overflowing with presents that people have given to us, and hopefully one day she'll be able to open them.
That one day does come, and Emily sees all that. I would imagine, Gloria, you would then have an Emily full of resentment towards her own mother who's presented this.
There are so many different circumstances, aren't there? I mean, maybe if your granddaughter comes looking for you, it'll be from a wanting point of view, so therefore I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a load of resentment. I think it'll come naturally in that she wants to, and children do want to know their family and their roots. And I actually of course I'm looking at it from a biased point of view, because I adore my grandchildren. I can't even think of what it would be like if I didn't see one of them, never mind any of the rest. But I just feel that grandparents have so much to give the younger generation, and vice versa. Because children, as they get older, they want to know what was daddy and mummy like, or mummy like when they were growing up. They want that infill of all that information. And I just think that the law is beginning to be tweaked. The lobby is strong. Very strong. The Federation is really fighting that. Have I time to give you one quick example? Yeah. A judge whom I met casually at a dinner one night was a judge in family law, and he hadn't seen his grandchild, his son, for ages because of the breakup of a marriage. And he said that even with his knowledge of the law, he could not get the right to get through to this child that used to practically live in his house. When I wrote my book about grandparenting, I got in touch with him, so he said I could. And his wife answered the phone and she said, "You obviously haven't heard." And I went, "No." She said, "Sadly, my husband died instantly of a heart attack en route to Cornwall. He never saw his grandchild again. He was never able to have that joy. So he died a very unhappy man with all the advantage that you have of the law." So there's some very tragic situations.
Do you feel hopeful, Marilyn, that it will change for people like Susan and their
that
families?
slowly but surely there's a recognition that people should, within a family, each have an entitlement to have a family. And it's a question of how speedily that will be translated into law. It certainly started with fathers.
Well, Susan, we hope that you know, your granddaughter does look for you, and you know, you obviously miss her very much, and I'm sure you echo so many other people out there who are going through something
Yeah,
very similar.
The floodgates have opened on this now. If you're in a situation like Susan and you need some advice, we've got information on the website. Now, it's not only there, there's the address on your screen, itv.com/this morning, but Marilyn, you're going into the hub with Matt and you're going to be hopefully discussing some of the issues raised in a few minutes' time. So thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.